Lewis, followed by Councilmember Waits, and we do constitute a quorum. I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Lewis. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. Please vote. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. Please vote. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Minutes are approved. Moving on to public comment. First up, we have Ms. Honoree Jordan.
Giving honor to the Spirit of God, to everyone that's here. God forbid, yea, let God be true, but every man a liar, as is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings, and mightest overcome when thou art judged. Romans 3rd chapter 4th verse. Let God be true refers to God's keeping his promises to Israel. God's faithfulness does not depend upon the faithfulness of man. I read the scriptures to James Griff and told him what Jesus said about him being against his word. Christ didn't lie. He shall subdue the people under us and the nations under our feet. Psalms 47, chapter 3rd verse. This is reinforced with reasons. He is an all-inspiring God. He redeemed Israel and settled them in their land. And he presently is ruling in Israel. I seek to obey Jesus because of his promises. For I think that God has set forth as the apostles last, as it were appointed to death. For we are made a spectacle unto the world, and to angels, and to men. 1 Corinthians 4th chapter 9th verse. Spectacle, theatron, lit, a theater. The apostles were like exhibits in a sideshow. Christ says to shew forth his praises among his people. It's like killing your flesh when people doubt you for seeking to obey Jesus. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah, Psalms 46, chapter 11, verse. First, God is a place of security when all else is insecure. We have to say what Jesus will do in order for him to keep his word. When I see China and Russia is against us, we don't have the same power, artillery power they have. But Christ got more power than Satan will ever have.
Next, Ms. McLeod, am I reading correctly? You're donating your 3 minutes to Mr. Mullins? Okay. Rodney Mullins, then you have 6 minutes.
Good afternoon, honorable council persons. I appreciate your time today. Today, I'm pleased to talk to you about the issue of safety. The safest place in Atlanta should be the home. But for many Atlanta citizens, the home is being disrupted because of several issues that I'd like to share with you today. It's not safe because many citizens are being evicted without cause. And we believe you can do something about that. These evictions are because the biggest landlord, the largest landlord in Atlanta is the City of Atlanta, Atlanta Housing Authority, and Invest Atlanta, by proxy, by the fact that they support thousands of housing choice vouchers. What we are asking you to do today is to support the allowability or the access of the ballot to for rent control. We would like you to place rent control on the ballot, and you can. You have the power. According to statutes in the City of Atlanta code, you can give the people of Atlanta the right to take control of this issue. We know what's going on with the state. We're working with Donzella James with SB 125. But we would like you to take leadership with us, because the people are speaking. The people do want rent control. They need rent control. The people that we are talking to, I'll tell you what they're going through. Their rent is increased every 6 months. These are people that are low income, because as I mentioned to you, affordable housing does not work. The formula for affordable housing is based on 80% of AMI. Low-income housing hits the majority of the people that are struggling, which is 40% of the people that live in Atlanta make below $42,000 a year. So what we're saying is that you can place rent control on the ballot and let the people speak. Let the people have a voice. Let the people say yes to rent control, because the people do want rent control. They cannot afford to live in the city. And we would love for you to take leadership on that. This is the year of the youth. We know that many of the safety issues that are occurring in Atlanta are being prosecuted by or being committed by young people. Many of the young people engaged in misdemeanors or felonies are between the age of 13 to 19. Those are young people that are now being evicted by the City of Atlanta, the Atlanta Housing Authority. They're being evicted at a rate, we're estimating at least 5 to 10 per week. And some apartments, there are being 10 or 15 per day. And what's going on is that the Atlanta Housing Authority, the partners of Atlanta Housing Authority, are not supporting rent control. That's where we need you. We need you to say no to evicting families, because that creates an unsafe city for Atlanta. When a child loses their home, they lose their stability. They are disrupted, they're traumatized. So when they make a choice to go to the street, it's because they don't have a home. Safety and housing are married together. There are enough economic challenges in Atlanta. Now, when you combine that with the fact that the City of Atlanta has given millions of dollars, millions, Invest Atlanta and the City of Atlanta and Atlanta Housing Authority have allocated millions of dollars to these partners, to these companies from out of state. We now have landlords that are making decisions on black and brown children that live in China, that live in Ohio, that live in Los Angeles. They are determining the future of our children. And they really sometimes do not have the best interests of our children at heart. It's a safety issue, because a child is traumatized when they lose their home. They sometimes make poor decisions. We are requesting that you support our initiative. We're going to take the lead. We're informing you today of what we're going to do. We have petitions, and the people are speaking. We want you to say yes to rent control and stabilization of the home, so your constituents can say yes to you at the voting booth. We want to say yes to you, but please say yes to us. Because the issue with the portal, we know there's an issue in this body about the portal. And we understand that that will give greater access. But let me tell you what our people are saying, the citizens are saying. The same people that you place on the portal are the same people that will not accept vouchers, housing choice vouchers. Secondly, the people on the portal, our senior citizens don't even have access to them because there's something called a digital divide. Many of our seniors do not have the navigational aptitude to move around the internet. Please have the empathy and the sympathy to understand that when we talk to our seniors that we're trying to stabilize them in homes because their rent is rising too, because the housing choice voucher is based on 30% of that principal amount. So when you raise that principal amount, the people are struggling to pay that 30%. We are requesting that you, right, we are requesting, honorable council people, that you revisit the issue of the portal because it's not the complete solution. Because the portal, even though it gives visibility and limited access, it does not give access to the entire body, the entire demographic, the people who need help the most. And then some of the people on the portal have refused to accept the housing choice vouchers. Thirdly, some of the people on the portal are raising the rents. So when the citizens of Atlanta look in that portal, it's like looking at a menu where you can't even eat. So they go to this portal and they assume that it has already been acclimated and they have advocates on this portal, but they are deceived, they're bamboozled, they run amok when they go on that portal and the people there tell them, well, your credit score is not right. They tell them, well, no, we have limited availability for low income. And these are the same people that receive millions of dollars from you and from us, and they deny people. You can solve that. You can issue a mandate. You can set standards. Our policies need to have principles, and you are that principle. You are the balance to capitalism. When I studied capitalism in business school, we talked nothing about ethics. You are that balance. You are the virtue in capitalism. You're the coefficient of love. All of our policies have to have love. And right now, what's going on with the portal is our people are being denied. We will have a different Atlanta if we do not embrace the principles and the virtues of accessibility, of equity in this city. Your demographic will change. The racial profile of the city will change if you do not look at inclusion and access and fairness, because the people are crying out to you. The people are crying out. They want a voice. They do not have a voice with Atlanta Housing Authority. I mentioned to you that they cannot get access to meetings. People are negotiating their deals without them. So we're requesting transparency. We're requesting that you address the issue with the portals. We are requesting that you become an advocate of the people so that you educate all 400, it's probably 400 to 450 property owners, and you mandate that the source of income law will be enforced. And if they do not accept people simply because they have a voucher, that they will be penalized. I thank you. I appreciate you. Please give a voice to the people. Thank you.
Devin Franklin.
Good afternoon, council persons. First, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Mullins for the sentiments that he expressed. If I didn't have much to say today myself, I'd have yielded some more time so that he could continue to speak to what I believe to be a really important and central issue as it relates to Atlantans. But what I am here to speak to you all about today, as I told you all last week during full council, we have not forgotten. I am counsel with the Southern Center for Human Rights, and I would like to speak to you all about the current state of the lease agreement between the city and the county as it relates to ACDC. Very rarely is good governance a product of posturing or posing or grandiose showboating or anything of that nature. Good governance is very often the result of accountability and transparency. And we had a really strong, fervent debate during the summertime and into the fall about the effectiveness of the lease that this city agreed to contract with the county for to address the overflow and the overcrowding of persons in Rice Street Jail. One of the critical points that we in the Community Over Cages Alliance made was that the lease, apart from our decisions or feelings about the building itself, that the lease itself would not be an effective way to ensure that men were off of the ground and not sleeping on the floor at Rice Street. We told you all that of this lease that allowed for 700-something people to be brought into the building, we told you all that it was written in there that the first 300 or so were going to be the women who were being housed at Union City, and that the remaining spaces available were not enough, even if maxed out, even if the sheriff had the amount of staffing that he needs, to get men off of the floor in any substantial way. ACLU did a report, the Jail Population Review did a report, and their various reports included references to a September 14th point in time in which the total jail population at Wright Street was 2,892 people. As of last week, the Wright Street population was 2,830 people. So in the matter of several months, the population of men at Wright Street dropped by about 60 people, and we had hundreds of men sleeping on the floor. I am glad to see that the Department of Corrections for Atlanta is on the presentation committee today. I'm anxious to see what they have to say. I know that they don't control who is brought into their facility, but I would be really interested for you all to continue digging into what can be done to make sure that men are off the floor, and not just ensure that this building that could have been used to facilitate the recuperation and the rehabilitation of Atlantans in need, that it's actually used for something that actually helps folks. Thank you.
That completes our public comment. We'll now move on to presentations. First up, we have Department of Corrections quarterly update. Chief Dancy. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Chairman Hillis and other distinguished council members, thank you for this opportunity. I am Interim Chief Elder Dancy. I will be providing the quarterly report for corrections that covers October, November, and December of last year. So we always like to start off with two important statements to our organization, which remind us of our commitment to our internal and external partners, as well as the community. First is our vision statement: to protect the public while striving for excellence through customer service and promoting community involvement. And our mission statement is to provide a safe and secure correctional environment, to enhance public safety through partnerships with the community and law enforcement. And here are a couple of our few partnerships that we, examples of few partnerships that we had going during the second quarter. The first is a contract that we have with Emory Grady Psychiatric Department. This is where their psychiatrists come out to our facility twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays to meet with pretrial detainees who may have some type of mental challenges. So this is an opportunity for them to connect with those detainees and kind of provide a continuum of care for them afterwards, whether it's follow-up appointments or medication and so forth. Our Viral Solution continues to assist us weekly with COVID testing and vaccination, not just for our employees, but for the detainees as well. Inmate Work Detail, we continue to move forward with that relationship with the Department of Corrections, State Department of Corrections, Clayton County and Atlanta Transitional Center, as well as the Metro Women's Facility, where we connect and partner with our APD Code Enforcement, Ms. Talley, and Commissioner Wiggins' team at DPW to assist with Cut and Close initiative. And this not only benefits our community, but also the state inmates who, as they transition from prison to back into the community, they have to meet certain requirements, and this gives them an opportunity to volunteer to work with us in the community. And then Fulton County, Obviously, the mutual aid relationship is ongoing. We continue to train with their team regarding emergency management and fire safety. The next slide is just some key initiatives during the last quarter. Of course, when you're dealing with a facility the size of ACDC, 17-story facilities, there are a lot of requirements, mandates that we have to meet, and training and inspections are a couple that we had to go through this past quarter. As you can see, fire safety training with Fulton, emergency preparedness training, direct supervision training in collaboration with Fulton County, and inspections in our kitchen, laundry, and fire extinguishers. Key technology advancements. These are two. The online portal is one that we talked about during the last quarter. We have executed and finalized that contract, and we're in the final phase. And I just want to again thank Council, Councilman Bond for sponsoring, and Public Safety for moving this project forward for us. This will simply give our community members an opportunity to remotely post bond for detainees at ACDC. So our AIM, JMC management partner, BI2, as well as in-court are working together to interface and to finalize that connectivity component. So hopefully we will be able to go live end of this month or early next month. But we'll definitely make sure we push that information out to the public. And then our electronic health records system, that actually went live on January the 17th. This is a new contract that we have with NAFCARE that will provide a more efficient medical care and education to our detainees housed at DOC. So these are just some of our hiring numbers, and as you can see, like most departments, not just in the city, but nationwide, we're having some hiring and retention challenges. The bar graph there shows that we hired, and this is calendar year actually, not quarter presentation, but this is January of 2022 to the end of December. We hired 28 sworn officers, we lost 31. We hired 12 civilian staff members, and we lost 15. So as I mentioned, this is an ongoing challenge. We work closely with HR. They have been actively involved in assisting us with coming up with new ideas to help with job fairs and looking at pay studies. So that process will continue. We have some job fairs coming up in the near future. And also the recapture program has been a huge benefit, and thanks to you all for moving that forward for us as well. I believe we have currently 13 recaptured employees who are not only coming back to lend their experience and assist with training, but also fill some of those critical positions that we have. And then, of course, to you all in the administration, for approving the 7% pay increase for the recent pay increase for our sworn employees. Obviously, pay is always a topic of discussion. So this will, we believe, definitely help move the needle as it relates to retention. These are going to be our total booking and average daily population numbers. And this will cover the second quarter of fiscal year 21, 22, and 23. The total booking numbers for 21 are going to be 706, 739, and 943 as we move through the COVID phase in 21 and 22. And you can see that orange bar is 128 for Fulton, and that number is skewed because we're only looking at Fulton's snapshot of December, which came in, I believe, the latter part of December, and that was quarterly numbers that we use. But the next presentation, the next quarterly presentation, we'll be able to give you those verifiable numbers that will give you a full picture. Average daily population, 30, 21, and 22, 51, and 23, 46. Total bookings for second quarter in October, 953, November 975, and December 901. And those 385 are Fulton numbers were was the initial female detainees that were brought over from the Union City Annex, 385. In the second quarter, average daily population, 48 in October, 47 in November, and 42 in December. Virtual court, of course, this process continues, and it continues to benefit us and municipal court. As you see our virtual kiosks there in our intake area, our numbers from FY21, 983, 1214 in 22, and 1236 in 23. And as you can see, our in-custody court numbers in October for this quarter, 433, November 412, and December of 2022, 391, a total of 1236. And this is a photo where we went out to visit DeKalb County facility. As you can see, Sheriff Maddox and her team, they were very accommodating and provided a full tour of their facility and gave us a look at their inner workings of their operation. So this is something we started last year. This is, I believe, our 5th visit that we had. And this is something definitely provides a great learning experience for us and helps strengthen those partnerships that we have with other corrections departments. So as you see in the bottom right, upcoming Gwinnett County tour, we actually did that tour last week, so we'll have that to provide for you in the next quarter. But we went out and met with their team, Chief McKenzie, their chief jailer, and did a tour of Gwinnett's facility. And these are some of the Beyond the Wall events, community engagement. This one was, we participated in Mayor Dickens' Peace Week basketball game back in, I believe, in October. And pictured there in the top on the left is Senior Officer Moore and Captain Wiggins, who assisted with coaching one of the teams and who were, in my understanding, back in the day, stand out in their own rights. And as you see the picture at the bottom there with the mayor, Commissioner Cutler, APD, fire. And this is another community engagement with Commissioner Boone in District 10 at the 17th Annual Harris Community Works Turkey Drive. And of course, we continue to participate in all Warman Center activations. We had 9 during this past quarter, and as you can see, we provided meals and supplies, as well as did laundry with blankets. So the meals there, DOC prepared and transported a total of 7,573 meals during that quarter. And I had to ask my team to double check those numbers. And then 2,149 blankets were washed for the Warman Center. So I just always want to spotlight my team, the kitchen team, led by Ms. Brooks, and also our housekeeping and transportation team who assisted during these activations. So this is a quarterly report that was requested by council regarding Fulton County population. Of course, the interagency agreement, this is just a high-level snapshot of Fulton and DOC's responsibilities. Security is Fulton County staff only, medical and mental health service, food service, and programs. And DOC provides, of course, housing space for the detainees, as well as space for food and laundry, general maintenance and housekeeping, and chemical and utilities. So this is, these are the numbers as of March 6, 2023, a total of count for Fulton, 382, 310 females, which were transferred over on December the 17th, I believe, and then most recently, males 72. And that number fluctuates. I think when I checked this morning, we were at 366 total. But they are housed, as you can see in the pictures, in our restrictive area and our general population. And these are ACDC total bookings, ACDC numbers only for December. And these numbers are kind of tracking close to our second quarterly average. As you see, they fluctuate, and they do not include our warrants, our Grady numbers, and other agency numbers. And this is just a daily snapshot, a total of 819. And again, Fulton numbers, December 17th was the first date we transferred them over. And these are total that came in during that time and for each day. And this is just a little quick snapshot of those numbers in December. And these were specifically the female detainees. We were also asked to provide the demographics. So this is a breakdown for ACDC, 84 black numbers for black detainees, white detainees 15, and others 1%. And these are Fulton County numbers: black detainees 86, white 13, and other 1%. So these are our numbers for gender, average stay for ACDC and Fulton County. And as you can see, Fulton County at this time, we only had the female detainees at 386, male 622 at ACDC, and 197 females. Average age 36, ACDC, Fulton County 35, and average length of stay 1.7 days at ACDC and 11 days at Fulton. And of course, that was just for that month of December. And these are our total top charges at ACDC for detainees only. And so the top number is going to be driving while suspended or revoked license. And these numbers could be a little tricky because some may represent more than one person. So you could be charged with, say, DUI as well as driving in improper lane change. So that's going to be a lesser included offense for that DUI arrest, but each charge is counted. And these are our release information. This is ACDC at the top. Our top release is going to be self-bond, which involves our signature bond, either at DOC or through municipal court. And the second top number is released to other authorities, and these will be those warrants or holds that they may have. And then, of course, at the bottom there, Fulton County, this is just numbers that we track in our system where they are released for whatever reason, and some could be they are released to go to Grady, and then we'll bring them back and put them in the system. So those numbers could be a little tricky as well. But this is just for the month of December. And that's it. That's the end of our presentation. If I can, Chair, I just want to recognize a couple of changes that we made, some positions, appointments to new positions. First, I think she's here, Natasha Johnson, who's a career employee with ACDC. She's a tenured employee. She's been with us 26 years. She was recently, thank you. I didn't mean to embarrass her and put her on the spot, but she was recently appointed to Deputy Chief. She served, again, 26 years with ACDC. She came up through the ranks, starting as a correctional officer, and recently she was a major in charge of our administrative services division. She has a wealth of knowledge, historical knowledge, so we're proud to have her in that position. And then also, you may recognize Timothy Quiller. He worked for APD, I think almost 30 years. And we were fortunate that he agreed to come out of retirement to assist us. He brings a wealth of leadership skills, as well as most of you will probably remember, he spent a lot of time in Zone 1, Northwest Atlanta, as the major there. So you bring those community connections and law enforcement, unlimited law enforcement connections. So as we continue to build and go beyond the wall, he will be assisting us with that. So he will be in charge of our administrative services divisions.
All right, thank you, Chief. First up, we have Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief Dancy, for your very thorough presentation. And also want to thank you for lending your officers to our community efforts out of the Post 1 office and our partnership with Second Helpers. It's ongoing, and we really do appreciate it. But I do have a couple of questions. One, I know they're building out I guess it's the center the name is
Diversion Center?
Yeah, the Diversion Center. What is the timetable on that, and when do you think they'll have that construction finished?
So we have been meeting with them. It ramped up recently. Had a couple of meetings, I believe, this month and last month. So the initial date, I think, was given of March 16th, but that may be pushed back. There are some things that they have to work out, but they are working closely with us, the project manager, Sean Hodges with DEEM, and the diversion team. We have done quite a few walkthroughs. So we're looking forward to that project beginning sometime maybe this month, later part of this month, or early April. But they have included us in every step. Chief Johnson, Deputy Chief Johnson, is our point of contact for that team. And so, as you know, we are looking at working through the kitchen component. There will be a short temporary closure of that, but we have a plan to continue to move that forward so we don't have any major interruptions. So I'm happy that everybody is pulling together and getting on the same page.
And I guess my second question goes back to the issue we had talked about with Judge Portis regarding the management of the signature bond program. Have you all made any progress on that, or?
We have made some progress, and I think my team has a meeting with them tomorrow to finalize some procedural steps. So their team is in our office. We have space for them now, and they occupy that office daily. And so, and they are there to provide that assistance with, just basically checking citations, checking the narration to make sure there are no issues with that. Looking at those individuals who are in their benchmark system. So we're working to collaborate to make sure that we have a consistent flow of information coming to our booking team so that when it's time to release that detainee, we'll be able to make sure we vet that information. Our JMS system is up and running, so we are internally vetting information regarding detainees who are arrested prior to their court date. So we can address that issue. But it is moving forward, and I want to thank Judge Portis and his team, the court administrator as well for that assistance. But it's still an ongoing process, so we're not where we need to be, but we're moving in the right direction.
Okay. And then lastly, I was really kind of disturbed to hear the retention problem that you're having, in hiring folks particularly. I mean, all jails are dangerous, but with a lower population, you would think that it was less dangerous, and so that people might remain. And I know that Atlanta, the Corrections Department probably pays better than most in the area. At least that has been the case in the past. And so it was an issue raised by one of our public speakers about the staffing of Fulton County being able to come over, I guess, and staff for the capacity so they can hold the inmates in the facility. But you're having the same hiring and retention problem that the county is having, correct?
We definitely have a retention concern. And again, as I mentioned, it's not just in the city of Atlanta.
Right.
It's in the county, in the state, and nationwide as I talk to our partners, as we work together to come up with ideas to see how we can attract good candidates and keep those candidates. So it's definitely ongoing. Again, HR is working closely with us, giving us ideas as well. We've done one pay study in the past and got a percentage increase. I think and they have agreed to continue to look at that in the future to make sure, because what we see is some of our employees not going to work in other fields, but going to work at other correctional facilities. So it's concerning and something that we will definitely keep a close eye on. and continue to monitor and also have an open door and listen to our employees as they come in and as they exit, kind of see if we can get a good grasp on what's going on with that.
Yeah, I know, because in the past, when Atlanta has had agreements either with the U.S. Marshal Service or INS or what have you, Atlanta was responsible for the personnel to watch those individuals. And in the agreement with Fulton County, that's not the case. And so that wasn't the negotiated agreement. And so even if it were, though, at this point, you would still be struggling to staff it, right?
Correct.
Right, for
We
that
would be.
increase in people.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Well, I mean, I just, one other question. Is Fulton County solely responsible for bringing the women to the building? I mean, their deputies, if they arrest a female, they're not taking them to Rice Street and then they're being shipped over, or they bring them directly to your facility?
Well, it's my understanding they're still booking them at Rice Street, and then they go through their
Their
process.
system's different for the.
Correct. Their system is different than our JMS system, but then they transfer those female detainees over to ACDC. Yes.
Well, I appreciate your report, and congratulations on the new deputy chief, and it's good to see Quiller again. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Boone.
Yes, Chief, thank you so much for your diligence and hard work. And to our new deputy chief, that is so deserving. That was really, really deserving. She always responds, and the entire team is just marvelous. So again, thank you for being there for our cold winter shelters. I think we're opening up tonight and tomorrow. But you all really treat the people very kind, and also the food is pretty good. So thank you all so much for treating the homeless with dignity and respect.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you as well, Chief, for coming in today. I had a couple of questions I wanted to talk about. I know that you said earlier that Rice Street has dropped. Fulton County Jail, it looks like their numbers have dropped out by about 60 inmate-wise since we made the change, since we did the partnership with them. Has that been, what kind of impact have we made to getting men off the floor over at Fulton County? I know part of the reason why we did the lease was because we had people on the floor at Fulton County. Since this lease has happened, how many people have we been able to move off the floor?
So I'm not sure about those specific housing arrangements at Fulton, but I do know that we currently have pretty much all of their female population at our jail. They're going to be housed in 6 different housing units, including the females and males. The male transfers just started. We started moving the females first, so the males just started. I think the initial move was about 70. I'm guessing, I believe it was in the low 70s. Currently, we, I believe, have 65 males in our housing unit. And that's just one housing unit that we have. We have 5 pods left that we have space for Fulton. So that process is continuous. But I can't speak to Fulton numbers. I know they have other agreements with other agencies and so forth. So that would definitely have to come from them.
Okay, my next question would be around staffing. I know we talked about us staffing up to prepare for the lease. Have you, and I know when we did your numbers, you said that you hired 28, but you lost 31, so your net gain is -3. And then when you think about, I want to make sure I speak this correctly. So we onboarded 28 on the page isn't numbered. So we onboarded 28 police officers, correction officers?
Yes, sir.
And what was the 31 and 15?
We lost 31. the sworn, so we onboarded 28, lost 31, and the orange bar graph refers to civilian employees. So we onboarded 12 and lost 15.
So we did a net -3 on both. So when we think about Fulton County staffing up and Fulton County being able to help us, are your correctional officers guarding or staffing the areas that Fulton County folks are at?
No,
Inmates
sir.
are. Okay.
We are not. They are 100% staffing their areas with security.
And per the last census, black people make up about 50% of Atlanta's population. I want to make sure we get this number out here. You said 84% of the ACDC is black,
Yes, it's listed in our system, yes.
and a lot of your charges are traffic offenses, because we thinking about like cars on the road, and we got to know that everybody's getting pulled over, but we're saying only 84% of the people that we lock up that are sitting in your jails for traffic offenses are black.
Well, that would probably be a fair statement. Obviously, driving while license are suspended are going to be our top charge, and DUI is the second top charge. So the first, I believe, 5 or 6 are going to be traffic related, and then disorderly conduct after that. So,
And I think my last question would be my last set of questions would be around the PAT 3 program. I know we talked a lot about bringing back the PAT 3 program so we can have folks working and doing weekend jail and so many different other options. Where are we now on weekend jail and on the PAT 3 program, the program in which we train folks on, or maybe I'm saying it wrong. I'll tell you what I was told that the program kind of does, and maybe you can think of it. It's a program in which folks that are arrested, they can actually get jobs with the city and be doing city work while they're in jail, and then whenever they come home, they can have a job. Where are we on that?
so we started that conversation again. It kind of ended during COVID. The previous Sheriff Labatt, when he was here, he initiated that program with the assistance of Chief Johnson. And so she's spearheading that again. She has met with DPW. Commissioner Wiggins is very interested in it, as well as Watershed and Parks. So we are going to rekindle those relationships. Obviously, the state, these are state detainees, and we have met with them, their transitional center. So they are interested. We just kind of got to get on the same page and come up with a process on a criteria on how we can move forward. But I agree with you. I think that's extremely important. So we're going to continue to push to start that process up again.
I know you give us a quarterly report all the time. I know that this isn't included in this one. In the next quarterly report, could you include like the conversations, let us know where we are in the programs?
Yes, sir.
Because I know a lot of folks who are in our jail system, in our jail system, they want, when they come home, they come into our job fairs. I think a better process if we can get them a job ASAP while they're in there. I know we talked about bringing over 100 men per month, and you said we have 65 currently,
Currently, we have 65.
and that was this month or last month?
That was this month.
And so we have potential to get to that 100 number before the end of this month. And so
Yes.
I would like to know if we can add that to the report of if we hit that 100 number per month. I just want to know I want to make sure that the numbers are lining up, because I believe the numbers, but I want to stick to them. If we don't stick to them, I can see ways that we deviate from the original intent of the plan. And last, what are the current staffing levels of, and I don't know if you would know this, the current staffing levels of Fulton County deputies and assigned to the jail or prison in the jail? I'll rephrase that again. I apologize. What are the current staffing numbers of amount of Fulton County deputies in ACDC?
So that fluctuates, but I could tell you the way our model is set up, direct supervision, they're required to have an officer in each pod 24/7 that they house. They also have supervisors, staff there, and other staff there to provide assistance. So that is something that has to be consistent, not just with Fulton County staff, but with ACDC staff as well. We fall under the American Accreditation Association, and that's one of the requirements or one of the standards that they have in place. So they are required to provide us documentation and to ensure that we are meeting those standards, and it's reviewed by by ACA. So there are a lot of other, outcome measures that we have to provide, but they fall under that umbrella since they are now at ACDC as well.
I think that the one thing I want to make sure we do, and it's me giving you some power, because I know you're going to do everything you're supposed to do to make sure inmates are safe, make sure we're supposed to do our job. But it's my job to make sure that the plan that we originally wrote is stuck to. And so that's why I want to make sure those numbers work, because I believe those numbers. But the moment we deviate from them, we're going to be running for a new election, and then we're going to be extending this ZAMSAC jail policy that I said I didn't want to have to do 4 years from now. And so I appreciate you for your service, and I appreciate Chief Sheriff Labatt for his service. But we got to make sure that we do what we said we were going to do, because you're going to look crazy if we don't on the back end. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilmember Waits.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Dancy, I appreciate the complexity of the work that you do. In years past, I've had a relationship where we can utilize some detainees to assist us with beautification projects, picking up areas that are historically have patterns of blight and so forth. And so my question is this: I'm not sure, given the dynamics in terms of the partnership agreement with Fulton County, are we still doing any work in terms of utilizing individuals who may be housed in the facility to assist us with projects for beautification? I have recently been appointed to the Keep Atlanta Beautiful project, and I know Councilmember Norwood has some success with utilizing unsheltered and unhoused individuals, and so I would love to know, do we still have access to utilize inmates to assist with projects for beautification purposes, highways, and areas like that?
Yes, ma'am. So we haven't used Fulton County detainees, but state DOC detainees, yes. We have a relationship with Clayton County and Atlanta Transitional Center, where, as I mentioned, we usually work with DPW and code enforcement, but we can definitely assist in other areas as well. Obviously, we have to work on their schedule. They usually bring those detainees over 3 days a week, but sometimes we can ramp that up if we have something going on. So if you have a project in your community, we'll be happy to take a close look at that and see what we can do to provide assistance.
Okay. I want to reach out to each of the council members to see what areas are a priority, because this is something we want to do citywide. Lastly, I'm too struck by this number of 690 detainees that are African American, which I found interesting. And my question would be, for those inmates that received some type of bond, I noticed some of these cases were dismissed. I'd love to see what happened, the end result of some of these cases in terms of the numbers. Which ones were dismissed? Who received probation in terms of the numbers based upon demographics and race? I'd like to see that breakdown.
Yeah, that may, and we may have to talk to municipal court to get some of that data.
Yeah, I'm clear. I'd like to talk further offline about this.
Sure.
This is something we have to do today. But given the fact that we're saying 84%, given that we're representing all of Fulton County, those numbers strike me as well. For example, 395 were self-bond, others were released to some other authority, and then others bailed out on cash. I'm just curious. I don't think we should be in the business of incarcerating individuals based upon poverty is what my concern is. And so I'd like to talk further offline. And again, I really do understand the complexity of the work that you do. And so I'd like to figure out how we can partner to assist some individuals who may be having some challenges based upon financial hardship.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Chief Dancy. That concludes our questions. And just again, congratulations to Deputy Chief Johnson on your promotion, and welcome back to Deputy Chief Quiller. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the quarterly presentation of the Office of the Public Defender. Mr. Kenneth Days, you are up. Welcome.
afternoon, council members. Chairman Hillis. I'm Kenneth Days. I'm the Director and Chief Public Defender of the Office of Public Defender. And today's report, what we want to do is highlight some of our numbers on the social services that we provide, either through referral or direct services by our staff, and also highlight some of our outreach efforts over the last quarter. This first slide represents numbers from November and December of last year. And what you'll see on that is we had direct services provided to approximately 98 individuals. 17 of those individuals qualified for our holistic employment program. Those individuals have been interviewed and were placed with some of our employer partners. Additionally, we've got, it's kind of tough to see on that graphic, but the bar graphs at the far right represent the two most distinguished, represent approximately 93 community outreach resource sheets, and we've shared that in a past public safety presentation that has information. It's a comprehensive information sheet provided to the public that has information weekly that will share the weather, where a person can go to get identification, where resources are for housing, healthcare, people in crisis. If people need medication, we provided a comprehensive list of updated information where they can get medication, food, clothing, GEDs or parenting classes, employment, Social Security benefits, and the like. So all that's covered on our on that form, which you see we disseminated 93 of those to individuals, in addition to the more than 100 individuals that receive that via email, organizations and individuals, both on a weekly basis. Also, what you'll see on that graph, that bar graph, represents 87 pretrial social worker intakes. And what that is the two social workers that work for our department. Those are 87 people that they directly assisted with benefits. So all of these metrics that we're providing are directly assisting your constituent base with employment, driver's license restoration. As Chief Dancy just mentioned, the two top arrests that we tend to see are the ones that they report, which are driver's license suspensions and DUI. So we try to correlate some of the services that we're providing to assist people with those issues around substance abuse treatment, supportive and permanent housing as well. And what this also does is shows the effectiveness of the work that our department does outside of the court. This next graph shows the same numbers for both January and February of this year, and that would be 265 services provided, 20 of which were employment referrals, and of those 20, we had 5 people placed into our employer partners. And I want to sort of briefly mention that for the months of January and February, that 25% placement and the previous 2 months of 41% placement is extremely high. So it actually gives credence and credibility to the work that the people in our department are doing. We typically tend to see in really robust employment periods about a 10 to 15% placement rate, but for us to get up to 41% and even up to 25% is an incredible amount of placements. Also, on this one, we've got 242 community outreach resources disseminated and 229 social worker pretrial visits. Again, that's the comprehensive assessments and intakes that our social worker staff are doing. And I want to use this as an opportunity, so if you have questions, we can sort of pin this one as a request from our department for more funding to increase the number of support staff that we have doing this work. Because again, this is 229 direct intakes with 2 individuals doing that. So obviously, if we had more people staffed to do this, we could make more of these comprehensive intakes and assessments available to our citizens. Our legal practice in the Public Defender's Office incorporates the holistic defense model, and what that is a focus on the social issues that increase a person's contact with the judicial system. And so there are a myriad of studies that reflect that if you can improve a person's housing status, employment status, and provide treatment for any substance dependency issues, you're going to significantly reduce the number of chronic recidivism that you have for a given jurisdiction. And so a lot of our outreach is focused on those very things. That's why the numbers that you saw specifically point to those things that we can do to prevent somebody from becoming a client in the first place. That also provides a significant cost savings to the city. The Vera Institute of Justice several years ago provided a study that said it cost about $400 per individual for them to cycle through arrest and the court system, and that's for misdemeanor charges. So when we have resources that are assisting in this population, this vulnerable population, what we're really doing is saving the city about $400 a person that have to cycle through that system. So it becomes significant as our numbers increase. Again, the more people we can sort of put behind these initiatives, the more money we actually save in the city. Of course, community engagement for our department is an important component of the work we do. Again, particularly with reducing the numbers of people that are not stably housed or that are homeless. On this slide, what you'll see is we've established a partnership with one of the local motels that's providing housing, and I believe they're working directly with Partners for Home. And we had our annual, this is our 6th annual Thanksgiving event, I believe, but this year we chose to do it directly inside of the motel, and that was a big success there. Some of the residents there have been or are current clients, so it was a way to directly connect with them. And at that event, to the left on that picture, you see that's in our office, the number of materials that we boxed up to provide in addition to the hot meals that we served, and that was directly reaching, again, 120 people. In December, we had an outreach event where we had our attorney staff, client advocates, investigators, and support staff sponsor a group of kids. This was 16 kids that we adopted as part of our community outreach, and they were provided with both toys and clothes this year. For December as well, we went back to our motel partner and provided again the non-perishable items and hygiene kits to 105 individuals. And this again was another success for us, and it's something that we hope to continue to do. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the work we've done in the past few months or that we continue and will do in the coming months.
Thank you, Mr. Days. One comment I'll make right away before referring to my colleagues, because it's been brought to my attention by others as well, is your first, well, not the title page, not counting the title page, but the first 2 sheets.
Yes.
Even if I pull up the electronic version of this, none of this is readable. So can you please resubmit this in a...
Yeah, we can blow that up. We've tried really hard to get that on one page, but I can provide that information to you, because actually what I had to do myself, I can no longer see as well as I used to.
Submit that.
Yeah, we can get those numbers to you.
Heard of my colleagues, and I come back with some questions. Councilmember Bond.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Days, for your presentation. And I appreciate the good work that you're doing in the courtroom and beyond the walls of the courtroom.
Thank you.
And wanted to ask you if you could elaborate on your ability now to assist people, I guess, to give them legal advice around evictions. It was raised by someone who spoke during public comment. And so what type of advice can you give our citizens now? Are you able to give when they're facing eviction in Atlanta.
Yeah, what's been most helpful around that now, and I'm appreciative for you sponsoring that legislation that allowed us the opportunity to have the capacity to do what we're doing now, which is it's now a more immediate assistance that we provide. And this has been, I could probably sit here for the next couple of hours and just tell stories about the number of clients who we're assisting that have this separate issue of a potential eviction. What our attorneys have now done as part of their normal processes is if, again, we have a social worker and or a client advocate that does an intake and sees that there is a housing instability issue, like a potential eviction, our attorneys then will make that call to a landlord and have that conversation. Most of those situations are resolved in that way. So it does not have to cycle through the court, which usually takes months for that problem to resolve itself. But just simply by having an attorney speak to a landlord, we have about a 90% success rate without even having to have that case, escalate, and make arrangements for either a delayed payment or payment arrangements to be made. So we've been able to provide instant stability to a number of people. Again, I mean, the stories are really too numerous. I think we highlighted some of them in our last public safety presentation, but it's becoming a regular weekly thing that's just part of the job now, which is exactly what we wanted. We knew that was the intention for us. But again, it goes back to another funding issue for us is I would like to have an attorney that's just dedicated to do that. But we can't do that because, right now, all of our staff, and we're having the same attrition issues as most of the departments, probably even more so because our attorneys right now are probably operating at about a 40 to 60% deficit in salary compared to other jurisdictions now. Some of the other jurisdictions have become extremely more competitive for this public defender space. So it's tough for us right now with recruitment and retention. But yeah, we would love to have somebody that can literally just sit in the office on the phone and handle these issues of just calling landlords and working out payments, because it's an instant success rate, instant solution.
Can you provide the members of the committee, and then I guess by extension the broader members of the council, what that might look like in the way of funding as we begin our budget conversations?
Yeah, we've prepared that. I would be happy to send that to you because we have prepared that in the past. So numbers have not changed for us, so we can give you the specific amount that we would need to for that funding.
And as a follow-up question, have you had any conversations with the folks at 311 so that they perhaps could be a clearinghouse for some of your intake?
Yeah, well, we've not had that sort of as a meeting. We do get calls, forwarded to us from 311, but we get a lot of calls from just the courthouse of folks wanting just information because a lot of information is siloed. We just happen to be in a position to kind of answer questions. So I almost jokingly refer to us as the customer service agency for judicial agencies because we really just sitting on a lot of the information, even if it doesn't necessarily pertain to us or one of our clients, but we're happy to assist in that way. Just because, again, if we have the information, I want to make sure the public gets it.
No, I was just thinking since they are already staffed and they're on the phone, and
maybe
absolutely. A portal or something can be developed that could assist you in intaking people since they're already there.
And as far as the numbers are concerned, I can give you broadly, and again, we can break this down to specifics, but I can tell you, because this is something that we look at over and over again and try to be very sensitive to the fact that we're not asking for something that we can't show. It's tough for us as a department because we don't know how many people we're going to have as clients on a given day. So it's almost like the fire department. We need to be prepared at any day because today it could be 10 individuals, tomorrow it could be 1,000 individuals. And so we have to be ready, for that contingency, and it's almost impossible to plan for that. So we always want to be appropriately resource allocated to function when those changes happen. And we can certainly see from just recent data the number of appointments for us as we're coming out of the pandemic. It's coming back up to the levels, not quite to the levels that we used to run. Consistently for our office, In the past decade, what's normal for us is anywhere from 20 to 25,000 cases annually. Right now, we're projecting about 5,000. But again, that's, we can easily explain that due to the pandemic. But month in over month in, those numbers are slowly ticking up. So I have to believe that by next year, we may be back to that 20,000 caseload again. I don't want to be in that situation where we are not providing the same level of service delivery that we were doing. I hate to, for this may sound a little crass, but the pandemic was actually helpful to us because it let us concentrate that same number of resources on a smaller amount of clients because there just weren't that many people cycling through. But I'd like to be able to continue to provide that same level of service delivery as our numbers do increase. I don't want to diminish the service delivery as the numbers increase. We want to continue to be able to offer these same things like the eviction conversations that we're having and do all of this fantastic outreach work that we're doing.
Well, I think you all are doing excellent work, and I'm looking forward to trying to support you in any way that we can.
That's much appreciated.
Thank you. I withdraw.
Councilmember Lewis.
Mr. Days, I want to say I appreciate you for today. I also want to say I appreciate the work, similar to what Councilmember Bunn said, I appreciate the work that the public defenders do inside the office and outside the office, in the courtroom, outside of the courtroom. And you all defend folks you defend Atlantans and people who are not from Atlanta who don't have the funds to actually get it done. You've been doing it so excellent that folks are getting out of jail and people are saying, how they getting out of jail? So I appreciate y'all for the service that you've been doing. You mind if I ask you, how long have you been our Director-in-Chief Public Defender?
I believe this may be my 6th year, I think.
And I've been seeing you stretch. I've been seeing you be crafty and stretch since I've been down here and stretch what you don't have into more. And so my question to you today is going to be my question to you when we do budget. And first, it is, when's the last time you expanded your office, right? So what I mean by that, let's say, I like doing whole numbers. Let's say 100 people lived in District 12 5 or 6, 7 years ago when you got this position. And you had, let's say you had 10 people, 10 assistant public defenders in your office. When's the last time that 10 years now, 5 years later, there are now 125 people living in District 12, or 200 people, because Atlanta expanded in a different kind of way. So let's say 150 people living in District 12 now. Do you still have 10 assistant public defenders?
No. And really, I can probably better explain this in a way that answers your question a little bit more specifically. Since I've been with the Public Defender's Office since 2008. And we've never been what would be considered adequately resourced for the number of attorney staffs and support staff versus the numbers of cases, our caseload. Again, that's why I mentioned our typical caseload is anywhere from 20 to 25,000 on a given year. It just has not been that over the past few years, but of course we all know why that is. So to answer the question, no, we have not been. And in those years where we have seen increases from council and administrations that have funded us better than other years, I mean, there were a couple of recent years where we literally only had $1 allocated to us. There were 2 years in a row we had $1 allocated to us in the budget, more than the previous year. So what we've seen is, even those years where we have been what I would call appropriately funded, it hasn't been enough for us to play that catch-up that you're mentioning. And because the representation model has changed and there's more that you have to do now. For instance, there is every attorney, if you're a criminal defense attorney, if a person has an immigration consequence, it is your ethical responsibility to advise that person appropriately of any immigration consequences that they may have. Most offices don't have that. We do have that. This city council was very forward-thinking in approving a grant that we were able to receive to have that ability in our office. So we're better than most in some instances. But again, because of the people that come through with those questions that need to be answered, quite frankly, we need more attorney staff in that space. So it's always playing a game of catch-up, and I don't want to play the game of catch-up. It's very difficult for us to play that game of catch-up. Because again, our attorneys, and it's easy to talk about the attorneys, and when you think about the attorneys, I also want you to think about this means also the support staff of investigators and social workers and client advocates that also are doing this work as well, because they're supporting those things that we need to get you the statistics on that you can actually read that prevent people from again, coming into the courthouse. That's why we're so actively engaged in the community. We don't want people as clients. So anything that we can do to prevent people from coming in, it reduces our numbers, which is helpful, and it's cost effective. But yeah, we do need more. It's always a need for more to not have to play catch up, because the models have changed and there's more things that we actually have to do to represent an individual.
I appreciate you for being so open in answering that question. And so I know that that's difficult, particularly when I know how this goes, right?
Right.
But I will say that the city of Atlanta, what we're bragging about, and rightfully so, is that we're doing better than we've ever done as a city financially, right? I think that a city's job is not to make money, but to provide public services. And so I think this year we're going to be talking and putting our chests out. I like putting my chest out sometimes if I can really stand on it. I think we're going to put our chests out on doing our public services the right way. And so I implore you to fully ask for what you need in your budget request. And I implore you to work with the city council as you get it across, because we are working with a mayor who draws circles, not lines, right?
Right.
I believe him every time he do it because he draws circles around me. And so I'm open and I'm hoping that you actually put in what you need,
Right.
and that we grow, because the city's growing. We better than any city in the world. We can't wait to show people. We're going to steal public defenders from other cities because they want to come work for you. But that's our job. So I appreciate you.
I thank you so much for saying that.
Councilmember Boone.
Yes, thank you so much for your dedication to the city and your public service. Could you tell me more about the community service hours, and is that in effect now? And when folks are in trouble, do they have that option?
Yes, but that's something that's a court function. We don't control that. Now we do have partners, community partners, where we will recommend clients perform community service just because we've got good relationships with those people. We understand some of the work that they do, and if they are eligible to provide, the hours for community service, and we sometimes will, give clients if that location happens to be close to where a client lives, and we're going to say, well, we know these folks, they do good work. You can do your community service there. So that's always open. But as far as who does community service, then that's a court function where they, essentially as part of the adjudication, we request for community service to be performed in lieu sometimes of fine or jail time, and that does happen. But that again is a
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lewis.
And her question just made me think of something. This past week, I was able to watch a new partnership at Atlanta Metropolitan State College, and it was with our Solicitor General, Keith Gamage. It was with the Atlanta Metropolitan State College, Atlanta Technical College, that is, Atlanta Technical College, and the Georgia Public Defender Council. And what they're doing is something called Embrace Your Second Chance at Success, in which folks that are arrested between ages 16 and 24, our young folks, they are putting them right into a program at Atlanta Technical College, in which they're getting GEDs, they're getting skills. And this is a real thing where I'm meeting young people who are part of this program today. Is there any kind of way that our city can tap in with that program, or we can become a part of or do something similar?
I'm smiling because we've been working with Atlanta Metro for, I don't know, more than at least a decade now, having those same kind of programs. It's just, I hate to say it, we just don't market ourselves very well around that, but we've had various programs over a number of years with them, specifically around those same things that Solicitor Gamage is doing.
Okay.
We've already been in that space.
That's what that marketing for, because to me, I was there. It was a packed room, and To me, this is an amazing opportunity because young folks we meet, we tried on this city council to increase the dropout age for Atlanta public schools, right? We want to make it to where you had to be 18 to drop out because we do know that once folks get to 10th grade, they're 16 years old, they can drop out, and some of them are dropping out. And so the reason why I wanted to do that is because I see you at 35, and if you look at the report we got before you from our corrections, the average age of a person locked up in the city of Atlanta is 35 and 36. Some mean you at 35 and 36 with no GED. And what I've noticed is that if you don't have a GED or a high school diploma, America has basically said you got an F. And so these folks aren't able to get jobs, they aren't able to do certain things. And so if we can market this program and we catch them at 16, we know you don't want to do our traditional educational system, but maybe you would do this. I think we got to market and push it on them. I want to push it. I want to, like when you come back in here, that's something we can stick out our chest on. You come in, you add this number, you say, I sent 100 people to that program. You get what I'm saying? I can't wait till you say that number. That's something that we want to encourage you to do. So I appreciate.
That's why I'm always big on showing this up. This was part of that number I just presented. So we put this out every week. So this is an updated list, and I don't know if some of you all may already receive this. We have a 100 member plus, 100 organization plus email list, but we're providing this up to date because a lot of the service providers that do the GEDs and provide housing and the like, and this is one for this week. If I can leave this here.
I just got to be a better. I appreciate you. It got to be a better job on my point to put it out. I appreciate you.
So we're updating that list for everybody because again, if a service provider stopped seeking that service, heretofore was not a one-stop place that you could sort of go and say, oh, we don't that number's no good anymore, or these people are not providing that service. So we have somebody on our staff that is updating that week by week and providing that list so that everybody can kind of look at this and see who's doing what.
You're doing everything you're supposed to do. I hope that the mayor give you your budget number. I hope you're able to hit your budget number this year so we can do some more work. Thank you.
But we will provide that to you guys and be happy to.
Thank you. Mr. Days, a couple things. I guess the first one's just a request instead of a question, but appreciate all the information about the holistic services, but would ask that we get a submission as an addendum to this quarterly report and it be included in your future quarterly reports about the number of cases you all get referred and maybe some metrics within that, how many, the number of days to an adjudication, number of, how many not guilty verdicts do you get versus guilty versus plea deal, how many of your defendants are City of Atlanta residents, et cetera. So if we could just see some more operational data.
And I can tell you now, one of the things that this is to kind of give you an example. Right now, we've got 3 full-time attorneys just doing DUIs. Our attorneys that do DUIs, this court is, and you can see it from the Department of Corrections numbers, this court has more DUI cases than anywhere in the Southeast. We are the highest number of Georgia attorneys representing DUI defendants than anybody else. Anybody else in the state. My 3 attorneys that are actively doing that. So if you just think about just that number, we've got 900 plus active cases among 3 attorneys in my office right now. We've got a 4th attorney that kind of fills in between the DUI staff and cycles through other courtrooms. But that should give you an indication of why we need to be properly resourced if you just think about it from the DUI standpoint and the numbers that as corrections gave, because ours would be similar. Of those DUIs, often a lot are pointed to us. We get a pretty hefty caseload for just DUI defense. And so you think about it from that perspective of having 900 active cases, and it has been higher than that in past years. So, this sort of goes to the point of our resource request. But yeah, we'd be happy to put that information in here.
Yeah, and since you mentioned DUIs, if you could also break down the types of cases that your attorneys handle. The other thing is there was a lot of talk about evictions and how your office has helped. And I know there was legislation back in 2021, I think it was, that related to that. However, as you know, and I think all attorneys know, that those eviction cases don't come to municipal court, they go to state court. So what exactly does that 2021 legislation do? My understanding was that you had to secure a 501c3 or another organization as a partner to do that work. So can you update me on where that is? How has that work been authorized to, I guess, assist or defend people in another court, the state court? So what is your...
So when the legislation passed, effectively, Atlanta Volunteer Lawyer Foundation, which actually is the biggest actor in this space locally, they received the funding, and the legislation was geared towards them to sort of operate that program. What we got from it, which has been very helpful, not from a financial standpoint, but from just an authority standpoint, is now we do have the authority to have those conversations that I mentioned. So if there is a dispute between a landlord and a tenant, we can call on behalf of the tenant and say, this is this person's lawyer calling you. And just being able to say that tends to, bring about a solution in most cases. It does not allow us the authority to go to court and handle those cases, and we sort of expected that going in, because again, we want to provide a solution as quickly as possible. So from that standpoint, again, it's very helpful, but I would, again, proffer that I think it would be better if we had somebody full-time that I could assign to just do that, because that person would have a very full day, would be very well effective to the number of people that are experiencing this issue.
Okay, so related to that legislation, and maybe my understanding is wrong, I thought that there was no funding attached to that legislation, so my thought was...
Not for our office, no. The benefit had to go
I'm
to...
done, just a second. My understanding was, there was no money allocated in that. The public defender, I don't know, through your office or through procurement, had to identify a partner, and then that authorization of that partner and any funding attached to it had to come back to council for approval.
I'm not certain I understand the exact question that you have. I mean, I just don't want to misrepresent.
So there was legislation passed in 2021.
Correct.
It authorized some kind of work in evictions, which again is not under the purview of municipal court. However, my understanding of that is that once you, or procurement, I don't know how it was supposed to work, but once that a partner was identified, the authorization of that partner and any funding attached to it had to come back to council for approval. Is that not the case?
That I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're telling us you're doing the work, so.
No. What we're doing is part of that legislation. We identified, again, the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation is primarily handling that piece of it. And to my understanding, any monies attached to that legislation went to that organization. They are the 501c3. They received the financial benefit of the legislation. What we received from that legislation was the authority to effectively handle those cases without them having to cycle through municipal court to handle. Again, giving us the authority to pick up the phone and act as the attorney of record for an individual who's experiencing that issue, who's experiencing an eviction issue. So for us, it gave us more authority than we had previously, but it didn't give us any funding to say hire more people to place those calls and to receive those calls. I'm hoping that answers the question. I don't think it has.
Yeah, I'm asked, I don't know if they were involved in drafting the legislation, but we'll ask Ms. Robinson from Law. Did you hear my question, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta, Department of Law. In 2021, pursuant to 21-00761, which passed in December of that year, the council stated that the it's the council's desire to authorize the Office of the Public Defender to partner with a 501c3 which performs eviction services in order to donate funds or services pursuant to the city's charter. This ordinance 21-00761 provided specifically that any partnerships between the Office of the Public Defender and a nonprofit organization for the donation of funds or services for eviction defense must be approved by the City Council via resolution authorizing the mayor, or at that time her designee, to execute any appropriate donation agreements necessary to effect such a donation. There is also a piece of legislation concerning the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation, which was 22R3862. That legislation, the council authorized a donation to the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation in an amount of $500,000 pursuant to the city's charter 6306, which allows for donations. And the purpose of the donation was to support the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyer Foundation's Access to Legal Counsel pilot program, which would provide eviction defense services to all eligible City of Atlanta residents. That's a program that 501c3 has in place. However, nothing in 22R3862 references the Office of the Public Defender or involves the public defender at all. It was a straight donation of funds from the City of Atlanta to that 501c3. So there would need to be an agreement between a 501c3, it could be Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers, or it could be somebody else identified, to your point, Councilmember Hillis, to partner with the Public Defender's Office for the Public Defender's Office to work with said organization to provide eviction services. Personally, I'm not familiar with such authorization, but as all donations under the charter have to be specifically authorized by council, that would have had to come through this body.
Okay, so I guess in short, is the work they're doing compliant, or is there still some T's to be crossed and I's to be dotted? I don't dispute this work is needed. I do take an issue because we're doing Fulton County's work for them, and I pay just as much property taxes to Fulton County as I do the City of Atlanta, and they should be handling this. However, are they compliant, our Public Defender's Office, or are there still things that need to be legislated here?
I would, unless there is an agreement that has been authorized by the council in accordance with the 21 legislation, I can't see that that is compliant with the 21 legislation. I'm not aware of any such agreement. However, of course, there may be one, that I'm just not personally aware, but I do know that any such agreement would have to have been approved by council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Robinson. And Mr. Days, I'll just ask that you have an offline conversation with the City Attorney's Office, just to make sure everything is up to snuff, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Councilmember Waits.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does PAD, do you guys work directly with PAD in terms of the working with individuals who've had some challenges in the past, for example, those who need to be on probation or maybe experiencing some financial hardship?
Yes, there are a lot of overlaps with what the function of PAD and what our function is, and we service a lot of the same individuals. But yes, we actually handle a quasi-legal clinic for some of the clients that are, again, some overlapping with us, to make sure that there's a seamless delivery of services between the two organizations.
So there's a referral process involved?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Davis? All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Colleagues, we will now move on to our consent agenda. claims with favorable and unfavorable recommendations. We'll make a motion to accept all favorable claims, items 1 through 6. Is there a second? Who was that? Councilmember Lewis is the seconder. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Those 6 items are favorable. I'll make a motion to accept all unfavorable claims, items 7 through 13. Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are adverse. Moving on to the regular agenda. Resolutions 23R 3276.
A resolution by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the settlement of all claims against the City of Atlanta in the case of Pamela Hill versus City of Atlanta, Civil Action File Number 121CV05087, United States District Court, Northern District of Georgia, in the amount of $65,000, authorizing said amount to be paid as follows: from the accounts numbers listed herein, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the total settlement amount and for the purposes.
Thank you. And colleagues, this is something that we had previously approved. However, there needed to be some corrections in the accounting and payment instructions. So that's what this resolution reflects. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Boone. Is there a second?
The vote is open.
Please prepare the vote.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 2, 23R 3300.
A resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against City of Atlanta in the case of SDNC Incorporated versus City of Atlanta, Civil Action File Number 2022 CV359665, Fulton County Superior Court, in the amount of $191,785.32, authorizing said amount to be paid from the account numbers listed herein, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the total settlement amount and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Boone. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Yeas, 0 nays. Completes that agenda. However, we do have 2 items on our held part of the agenda to take care of. The first is 23O1127. I believe there's a substitute that does change the caption, so I'll make a motion to bring the substitute forward.
Yes, Mr.
Second.
Chair.
Second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. Please vote.
Wait, what is your vote? 6 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before us.
An ordinance by council members Matt Westmoreland, Liliana Battiari, Amir Faroki, Howard Shook, Andrea L. Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Antonio Lewis, Jason Winston, Michael Julian Bond, and Dustin Hillis, as substituted and amended by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, authorizing the contribution of a total amount not to exceed $1,616,603.00 to the Atlanta Fire Rescue Foundation to support improvements and upgrades in fire stations across Atlanta, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to transfer funds from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'm going to make a motion to approve this on condition that we possibly receive another substitute. There are a couple council members that they're still waiting to hear back from as far as Fire Foundation donations. So I'll make that motion to approve on condition. Is there a second? Is there a second? Councilmember Lewis? First, let's handle the, they want to do amendment to add Councilmember Waits as a sponsor, co-sponsor.
Councilmember Waits is the only person being added. Mr. Chair, who was the seconder, please?
Seconder, Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you. The vote is open. Please vote. The vote is closed.
Yeas, 0 nays, item is amended. I'll now make that same motion to approve on condition of possibly receiving another substitute. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Waits. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Yeas, 0 nays, that item is approved on substitute as amended on condition. We do need to file a paper as it was, a version of it was adopted at full council last Monday, 23R 3274.
A resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing to amend Resolution 21R 3040 pursuant to which the City of Atlanta Alcohol Technical Advisory Group, ATAG 3, was established to conduct a review and to identify recommendations for changes to the City of Atlanta's alcohol beverage licensing process in order to extend the time by which ATAG 3 must complete its review and recommendations, such that it shall be by no later than July 1st, 2023, and for other purposes.
Motion to file. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Yeas, 0 nays, that item is filed. Any other legislative matters?
That is all, Mr. Chair.
All right. Colleagues, questions, comments? We will stand adjourned by unanimous consent of members present. Thank you.